Director in business, and it's brilliant to have you here today. I'm sitting in the sunshine, as you can see, shining on my face. There's no snow here in Lisbon, but it's certainly cold. So we've got a brilliant session for you this morning. We're going to all be hearing about the opportunity presented by the British Business Bank's investment fund for Northern Ireland. There's £70 million set aside for businesses like yours here in Northern Ireland. So we're really delighted to have this opportunity to tell you about how you can access this funding. And we've got three fantastic women talking to us today who have accessed that funding for their businesses. So we'll be hearing from them shortly. We've also got two fund managers joining us here today. So they're the actual fund managers who talk to the businesses and give the money out. So we've really got a whole panel of experts to tell you about how to access this money. There's a Q&A at the bottom of the screen. So at any time you can put your questions into the Q&A. There's also a chat function. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. But to start us off, I'm going to introduce you to Sue Barnard from British Business Bank, who is going to be telling you a little bit about the fund before we go into the Q&A to get into the detail about the fund itself and how you can access it. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Lorraine. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to Lorraine and the team at Women in Business for inviting the British Business Bank along today to talk about the £70 million investment fund for Northern Ireland. A quick intro from me. I'm the Senior Investment Manager at the bank, and I've worked on investment funds for the last 8 years at the bank. And for anyone who's not familiar with the work of the British Business Bank, we are the UK government's economic development bank, and we deliver a range of finance options across the UK, and we work with over 160 delivery partners to do this. You can find out more about visiting our website, or feel free to reach out if you need any more details. I can provide you this directly. However, today is all about the £70 million investment fund dedicated to Northern Ireland. And I'm pleased to say the fund is now live and being delivered on the ground in Northern Ireland by local fund managers appointed by the British Business Bank. And they are Whiterock Capital, who are delivering a debt fund and are looking to make investments in the form of loans from £25,000 up to £2 million. And you'll hear later from Jenna, who's joining the Q&A. And we also have Clarendon fund managers who are delivering an equity fund and looking to make investments up to £5 million. And again, we have Sian here later, who again will be able to take any questions. Just to touch briefly on what these funds are about, they are aimed at driving sustainable economic growth by supporting innovation and creating local opportunities for new and growing businesses from all sectors across Northern Ireland. One of the focuses for this fund is to ensure we're making it as easy as possible for businesses to better understand the benefits of taking on investment. And I'm so pleased to say we are seeing some great businesses come forward from a range of sectors and geographies from across the whole of Northern Ireland. One of the key areas we want to strengthen, not just across this fund, but across all our funds at the British Business Bank, is we want to invest in more female founders, hence the reason why we've partnered today with Women in Business, as we want to ensure females know about the fund and fully understand the benefits of finance and the support you can get if you're looking to grow your business. We're already seeing the investment fund for Northern Ireland making an impact by increasing the supply and diversity of equity stage finance for businesses, providing funds to firms that might not otherwise be able to get investment, and we want to help break down barriers in accessing finance. Already, Clarendon and Whiterock have made investments into a number of businesses, and we're seeing female founder businesses taking on this investment, which is absolutely fantastic to see. And it's also great to hear from the investment directors, who are both female at Whiterock and Clarendon and are here today, that they're talking to lots more females about investments into their business, which is fantastic to hear. One final important message from me after today: if you think it's not for me, it's too early, or I'm just not sure how to prepare myself for the investment, please speak to Whiterock or Clarendon, as they can talk you through this process. I know I'm looking forward to the next part of this event, where you will have the opportunity to hear firsthand from a couple of our businesses in the portfolio who have accessed this finance, because I think they can tell the story far better than myself about what's required and what their growth journey will be. So on that note, thanks again for your time. I'll pass back to Lorraine.
Thank you, Sue. And you are right. I think there's nothing better than hearing it from the horse's mouth. And I know that we'll get the warts and all on this morning from Louise and Melanie and Laura, who are joining us today. Now, I should say Laura's having some technical issues, so I hope that she'll be joining us shortly. Laura Henry is the head of finance at Cirdan. But to begin with, then, I'm delighted to introduce Louise Doyle, who is the founder and CEO of Needi, and Melanie Harrison, owner of the Chambers of Distinction. So welcome, Louise and Melanie. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I wonder, perhaps, Louise, if you could start us off just by introducing yourself and just perhaps say very briefly what your experience is in terms of securing funding, what type of funding you've secured from British Business Bank, and then I'll come to you, Melanie.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us this morning, Lorraine. Thank you. I'm Lou. I am co-founder of Needi, which is an intelligent gift matching service. So we use psychology and AI to match the perfect gifts to your recipients from the best local independent businesses. So it's quite a busy time of year for us at the moment.
Nice,
We've had a few huge orders from some big corporate clients that are looking to just send something that's really special and meaningful to their staff or to their clients as well. And we've had a great time sourcing local independent businesses that are ready to send out those, thousands of gifts. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Our fundraising journey was long, which I think when you said about speaking on here today, I suppose my biggest kind of motivator for doing so is if there is anything that I can openly share with anyone about the mistakes that I made along the fundraising journey and why it was so long, I would love to be able to sort of like help and happy to answer any questions. But to try and summarize that long journey for you, it began with bootstrapping, like I'm sure everybody is doing. Didn't have very many savings at all, but Steph and my co-founder Steph and I both kind of used as much of that as we could. We started building the business and we knew we wanted it to be a large business. We knew that the potential for Needi, we didn't want it to be a lifestyle business because it's not much of a lifestyle when you're working around the clock and trying to make ends meet and do all that. We knew that it had potential to be a really global enterprise. And so our fundraising journey started off with an accelerator program. We joined the Founder Institute, which is a Silicon Valley-backed tech accelerator. And I think being a part of that with people from all over the world, so there was people from all over, literally Europe, UK, America, everywhere. And I think that really kind of broadened our horizons a little bit and made us realize that, you know what, we could really go big with our business. And that gave us the confidence and introduction to the option to get investment. Then very quickly, we realized that we actually didn't know anybody in the investment world whatsoever. We didn't have any rich family and friends. They all talk about this family and friends round. I mean, we don't have any rich family or friends to kind of go to. So we had to start networking and broadening our pool. The way that we got our first amount of angel investment was from basically sending out PowerPoint presentations with videos and telling people about our journey. And then, long story short, from updating all of the people in our network and then getting introduced to the people at Techstart and Clarendon and keeping them updated on our journey, because I think, Sian, it was a full year, wasn't it? I think it was between meeting yourself and Claudine and the investment. And I think that all came from just keeping people in the loop of our journey. And then we finally got the investment from our current investors.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Louise. And welcome, Laura. Great to see you on. I'm going to go to Melanie next. So Melanie, tell us a bit about you and your business and the investment journey so far, briefly, if you may.
Well, I suppose the background to my business is I actually started a hotel in the middle of COVID, which was
what gave you that idea?
Many people were crazy enough to do. I didn't mean for that to happen. I had had the buildings and I had nearly all the work done, so I just kept going. I kept the faith and I kept going on. Anyway, so it's two Victorian townhouses on the Malone Road in Belfast, and very quickly I saw that this was a successful business. There was 16 rooms here, and I was getting great reviews everywhere. But I knew that really. I was limited in my growth, and I knew that was facilities that were required extra communal spaces, a bar, a lounge, and maybe some meeting spaces, things that I really needed to go to the next level. So I was able to acquire the building next door, which I'll be opening. I'll be able to expand to 30 rooms, and so yeah, that'll be in February 2025. But where was I gonna find this money? Because I'd already gone from the standing start, and I was just using the money that was, coming in from the rooms, advanced sales. So I'd gone to a lot of banks. I'd prepared all my figures. I'd got help. I did my projections, which I thought were really bang on. I thought the guy who helped me do the projections thought this was great. And the traditional banks were just closing the doors in my face. And I don't know, they didn't tell me why, really, just like it's a no.
Okay.
So that was really difficult. Then I was lucky enough then to get introduced to Whiterock. They told me all about the business bank thing. Really, I really can't take any credit for it. They really guided me through.
Mm.
I was it was a safe pair of hands. They just told me everything, and the best thing about it was really fast. Then I was just like fast tracked. I was told exactly the information I needed. Uh, um, and they kept in touch with me the whole way through. They kept me informed. And then it was possible. It was possible. But if it wasn't for the British Banking Fund, I would not be able to do this at all. I wouldn't be able to have secured that building and be having these rooms. And I really feel like they really give me a great hand up, and it couldn't just be better timing for me to be able to have that.
Brilliant.
So very much appreciated.
Brilliant, thank you. And I love so far, Louise's business, obviously it's a very different business to yours, and she has got equity, then you're in hospitality and you've got a loan through Whiterock, and it's great that we've got both Clarendon and Whiterock here today for later. And Laura, then another business, very different business again, Cirdan. So if you could just introduce yourself, please, tell us a little bit about Cirdan and that in that kind of first bit of your investment journey with
Yeah,
British
no
Business
problem
Bank.
at all. Delighted to be here today, Lorraine. Whenever Mark asked me to do the webinar, he said, "Oh, Laura, talk about how you're based outside Belfast." Now, I'm based just outside Ballycastle this morning. The snow and then electricity blip, which caused a delay in starting, so apologies for that. But Cirdan is a digital pathology company focusing on medical diagnostic pathways and speeding up the process and essentially improving patient outcomes. So are a wee bit more established. We've been going for about 14 years, and I've been working with Cirdan for nearly 10 of those, which is scary whenever I say that. But so I am very lucky to work beside a very seasoned CEO, Hugh Cormican, who is very experienced in terms of fundraising, etc. But to talk a wee bit about our fundraising journey and whenever we first of all worked with British Business Bank was through back at COVID, whenever we had the opportunity to avail of future funds, which is a real lifesaver for our business. You would think a medical business and focusing on clinical pathways during COVID would have done really, really well. And we did, there was some growth, but our product primarily changes pathways, and a lot of those projects were put on hold. So the future funds funding was really vital for us to be able to continue with our product development, etc. And then on from then, we've had a very long-standing relationship with Clarendon fund managers, and we have Neil Sims on our board, who has been such an asset to us and helping us drive our next stage of funding. We recently, just at the end of September, completed an investment round for equity with Investment Fund Northern Ireland, and then we also brought in a US investor at that stage as well. But we have a blend of investments, so we do have some debt from Whiterock as well,
Right.
and equity. So quite unique in the fact that we've taken both, and both for different reasons. So this time, mostly focusing on equity to really strengthen our balance sheet, and then focusing on that credibility because our market is mostly within the UK and NHS. So having an investor like the Investment Fund for Northern Ireland and British Business Bank really helps to build that credibility within the market. So.
And that's a really interesting point you make there about the credibility of the brand of the British Business Bank when you're talking to potential customers or future investors. So
Yeah, definitely.
Laura,
They're keen to understand the shareholding.
Yeah, exactly. So for Cirdan, you have taken both the debt funding, so the loans as well as equity. But Louise, you went for equity. And was it always going to be that route for you? Was debt finance something that you'd ever considered? I guess thinking about the businesses listening today, how do you choose between debt or equity?
That's a really, really good question. And I think similar to, I think when Melanie was talking as well and sort of saying that at the time that we were going out, the banks weren't massively helpful. In fact, even trying to set up a bank account was really hard during COVID. We ended up
Yes.
with maybe a not so well-known bank that we ended up going with because all of the main banks that we thought we could set up a bank with just wouldn't accept us initially. So I think from that route, that probably put us off a little bit. The fact that we could barely open a bank account, I think we thought, gosh, I don't think they'll then lend us some money, then are they at the moment either? And then I think for us as well, it was just the scale that we were looking to go. We knew that with our business model, we'd already had that market fit. We could see the traction coming. The pace at which we wanted to scale the business, it really came for us under the equity side of things. And we wanted people to support us and back us to do that, which is what we've got now.
Yeah. So because with the equity, they're getting a stake in the business as opposed to a loan, you're repaying it. So there's maybe more advice perhaps you get as well, or support through the equity.
Yeah, it's advice, it's opening doors. And I think also with Steph and I, we're aware of what our strengths are, but we are equally aware of what our weaknesses are. And I think that finding people that would fill the gap on the weakness side of things in our business, we've got that from we really do have that from our investors. And I think it's them that are helping to drive the business forward as well.
Yeah, and that's a really good message there about actually why taking on finance, the additional benefits that people might not see. It's not just about the money. The money obviously is perhaps what guides you in the first place, but actually all the expertise and advice you get with that. Melanie, for you, did you ever think about equity? Is that something, in your sector that's common, or was it really always going to be through the loan route?
Yeah, I think always through the loan route, because I just have very kind of I'm trying to do my business in a very different way. And funny, I did have a mentor come in, and they sort of really they used to working in the hotel industry, and they said it's really funny because usually when I go into these meetings, I'm looking at the it's usually like all the profit and the bottom line. You're always going from the customer side, but I say if the customer then it flows. So what I'm trying to do is it's more of creating that experience, and I think that. I'd be nervous about getting an equity investor because I lose control of what my brand and my business is. And I think the brand is it's very hard to communicate that to somebody who's coming in. And maybe a lot of the things I do don't maybe immediately make sense to somebody just looking at the profit and loss columns. But what I found actually is I've been able to command a premium price and have this experience from bits and pieces that I feel strongly about. So I'm a bit of a control freak, I suppose. I don't want to let
Well, I think you probably
somebody
have to when
give
you're
me
running a business like yours.
float my own boat, which is a bit of a risk. I don't have someone to give me the great advice. That maybe I could be having, but yeah, it's a route that I've just chosen to go down. But I had exactly the same experience as Louise. I couldn't even open a bank account, for my business. I had to go and get a Monzo account, which I actually still have.
Right.
But nobody wanted to know.
Yeah.
You're knocking on doors, you're trying to open an account. And I've been with my other bank with another business for 20 years, but still, not wanting to talk to you, not wanting to sort of give you any kind of support. which is really frustrating, because you said, like, I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted somewhere to put my money, and I wasn't looking for any other services. So that was just,
so hard.
beating your head against the wall. So yeah, like Louise, I didn't feel confident enough to even think about asking for anything more.
Okay. All right. No,
You know?
thank you for that.
Mm.
So, Laura, you have got both, which is really interesting because you've been through both. So, I guess in terms of the application process, were were those things challenging for you, Laura? Obviously, you've been through both, so you've seen both sides. What are the kind of things that people need to know about when it comes to preparing for that application process, and particularly the diligence process that's part of it?
Yeah, no, for us, we find it relatively straightforward. The one piece of advice I would give is start earlier than you think that
Louise
you
is
need to.
nodding.
So if you're thinking, okay, right, I'm going to start in March, start in January,
Laura, sorry to interrupt you. We're not
because it
hearing you very well.
always
Um,
takes longer. The process is just making sure that everybody
oh, I think we've lost Laura. Her bandwidth is low.
is on the same page.
Laura, can you hear me? Louise, I might just jump to you
Oh,
there, please, on the application and
can you hear me
diligence
better now
process.
if I turn off my camera?
If you turn off
I can
your
hear you. Can you
camera,
hear me?
you turn off your camera, Laura. I'm going to get Louise to speak, and then we'll come back to you in a second if you can turn your camera off.
think I just echo exactly what Laura's saying. I think she went straight in there and said, start earlier than you
Early.
think.
Okay. So why do you need to start early, Louise? What?
No problem.
I think that is because there is so much more. When it comes to the whole fundraising itself, I think the last thing you want to do is be in a position where you really need that money and like you're coming down to your
Okay.
last
Yeah.
few pennies,
Yeah.
right? And there's always stuff that will get in the way, life will get in the way, things will happen, whether it's in your business, whether it's with people that
Yeah.
you're dealing with. And I think that making sure that you are in a position where if you're whether you're applying either for debt or for equity, people only want to really give that to you, don't they, if they think you're going to do well with it. They don't want to give
No.
you it if they think it's going to plug a hole and then you're going to go bust, right? So I think starting earlier means that hopefully you're in that position where you're like, yeah, that's cool. If that overruns a few months here and there, we're still good. In fact, we're doing really well. And that in turn will change the conversations you're having with people about it as well.
I love that. So there's a couple of practical things. There's one so that you're not panicking and your money's running out, and there's the fear, and actually what if it does, because the process might take longer than you expected. But there's also about the image that you are presenting and the conversations that you could have, and probably a bit more feeling of control and the opportunity to negotiate, maybe even because there's not the urgency.
You're right. I think negotiate, but also, do you know what, one of the other things that I think a lot of people would worry about going into it too early because they're like, oh, my business isn't going yet, or I haven't got to those milestones or whatever. But actually, being completely honest, sometimes it's a little bit easier to talk to people about your ambition, about your dreams, than it is to sit in there and go, oh, well, we're actually, 10K under our month one target that we set ourselves, or we're actually here. And sometimes starting earlier when you have got all of those plans and dreams, and then getting people that know they've seen it before, they can talk to you, they could actually help you shape those plans as well. So yeah, for me, I think the earlier the better. That's a really good point that Laura was saying.
Yeah, thank you for that, Louise. Laura, live from beautiful Ballycastle. I'm sorry, we'll keep your camera off so we can hear you though. We were just obviously talking about that application process. You made a great point about getting organised early. Anything else that you'd like to add to that?
I think for us, it's about the information that you use in your business every day. So, it's your management accounts, it's how you drive your business forward. So the heartbeat, your KPIs, etc. That's the type of information that the investors want to see. They want to see the positivity, and I'll very much echo what Louise said. It's a much easier conversation whenever that's positive and you're not counting down the days in terms of what your runway is. etc. So really focusing on your recent customer wins, projects, getting successful news stories out there and creating a wee bit of buzz about the organisation in the press, that your investors can go and have a Google about you and find out a wee bit more information, not directly from you, is certainly beneficial as well. So yeah.
Good. Thank you for that, Laura. And Melanie, coming to you, just before I get you to answer from your perspective, we've had a question in just asking you to restate your business name. So if you could let everybody know what your business is called again.
It's called the Harrison, but my company name is Chambers of Distinction Limited. So it's the Harrison in Belfast.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so the application process for you, what was that like?
Yeah, good. And just, going back to Louise and Laura said, you do have to get all this information prepared for the investors, but it's brilliant way, you should be doing it anyway to focus your brain. And I think, whenever you're a one-woman band and you're trying to build a business, do all the marketing, you're trying to do everything, it's really easy to take your eye off that sometimes, and that really does sharpen you. And you are really looking at it from an outsider's pair of eyes. So getting ready early, investor or not, it's good practice to get into anyway.
Yeah.
So that's good. And yes, so really with the application process, I really just really got help from Whiterock. Basically, they just came in, told me everything I just needed to do. I had all the other figures prepared from before, so I did have all that sort of, but there was a lot of due diligence and different things, and they just completely just guided me through.
Good.
So I would say to anyone, if don't be worried about that. You don't need to be any sort of financial whiz kid. I'm certainly not, but they really are your guiding light, and they will tell you realistically whether there's a chance of getting this funding and what you would need to do to get there, and they keep you advised at every stage. So I wouldn't worry about that. Really go and have an honest conversation with your figures. Of course, you need to go with, just don't pluck figures out of the air. Have it all prepared, and then so you've got to do the sort of the donkey work in the back of getting your own stuff, get all your ducks in a row, and then from that, the more work that you do like that, the more easy it will be whenever you approach someone.
Just really quickly, Bella, did you overthink it? Because I overthought it. When it came to that stage, I was like, oh my gosh, it has to be perfect. They kept on talking about a data room, and the data room completely threw me into a spiral because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have everything, And again, like you said with Whiterock, I think I had that with Clarendon, where I just had an honest conversation and I was like, I'm spending too long on this. I'm literally up at night trying to put this all together. And she was like, Lou, you have the figures. They're here. Like, you do these reports anyway. And I think maybe having that human touch of someone that will just, again, stop you from overthinking it. I don't know if you're in the same place as me there, Melanie.
Yeah. I didn't know about the data room thing, so that would have completely thrown me. Yeah. There are the different technical terms, and can I do this? But once they're explained and in a simple manner, then you can. Good point.
And I think you're both really painting a picture about how helpful the fund managers are, and we will be coming to Sian and Jenna shortly, who are the fund managers. And I think we're so fortunate here in Northern Ireland. I know Clarendon and Whiterock are out and about across Northern Ireland, speaking to businesses in every corner, and are very accessible. And that's really the message that I'm getting from the panelists. Laura, if we can think about, we've talked about the process, we talked about the type of funding you get, and in terms of the overall benefit from business growth, have you, particularly given your funding over the last few years, how have you seen the funding help you achieve business growth, or what are you hoping it will enable you to achieve?
Certainly with our recent round, we are really wanting to accelerate our delivery capabilities. So, adding more jobs to Northern Ireland, increasing our brand awareness, things like that. So, Cirdan is a relatively unknown organisation, probably even within Northern Ireland, but even within our own market as well. So, really wanting to do some work on that. And it's really just given us the breathing space to be able to have that ambition and scale. So, a bit similar to what Louise had said earlier in terms of, there is huge capacity, opportunity out there, and we feel that we have the capabilities to deliver on that. And the investment, and especially within equity, it just gives you that little bit of breathing room in terms of going, right, okay, we have a war chest now. How are we going to make and deliver on that and make a return for our investors? So, yeah, no, certainly the hard work starts now, I would say, in terms of making sure that we can deliver a return for those investors. But really exciting times, being able to add more jobs and bring more people into the team and things like that.
Good, and that's a very practical thing, actually, the increasing your team size. Louise, for you, what are those business growth plans that this funding is going to enable you to achieve?
Very similar. We've already now gone from a team of 6 to a team of 13,
Wow.
which is mad. So yeah, recruitment number one, also deploying our tech as well. So we've got some fantastic tech in the background, and we're now in the process of integrating that onto our website and improving our website experience as well. And then we've never had any marketing budget. So everything we've been doing so far has all literally just been us posting about and going places. So actually having a bit more of a strategy. We've got a marketing manager now who's going to help us start getting our brand out there too. So a lot of plans.
Brilliant. No, that's brilliant to hear. And Melanie, obviously you shared with us you've bought next door, or you're buying next door. Tell us about your growth plans as a result of this funding.
Yeah, well, my growth plans have to be fast because I need to get these sales in to pay all these builders. So yeah, I really got the keys on the 1st of August for these buildings next door. And yeah, I'm hoping my doors will be open on the 15th of February. We're sort of in the late stages of getting all this building work done. There's a lift arriving next week, and carpets arriving the week before Christmas, and yeah, radiators getting installed, and all of that's kind of so it's yeah, and then then I have to get all my accreditations from the tourism board, from my license for the bar, and all of this, and then all of a sudden I'll be open in February. So it's been fast and furious, but just needed, because I'm just relying a lot on getting it all moving, getting these rooms sold for next year, so to finance a lot of it myself. So yeah, well, exciting times.
It is, and very practical. You can really, I think, because your sector is so familiar to many of us, will understand what a hotel is and everything that you need. So to know that this funding is available to business like yours as well, I think is really great to hear.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot, from traditional banks that told me straight they're just not investing in hospitality. Point blank, it's just not a thing they're doing. So it's great that I'm considered for this, when it's just, usually it's a no.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like not even talking to you about it.
Okay.
So it's very positive. I think with the likes of Whiterock, they do say they look at people, from an individual basis, and they really get to know, the business owners and what they're doing, and take on their, that it's a more holistic approach rather than just a rule.
Yeah.
That way.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I'm going to get one final question to the panel, and then I'm going to bring in Sian and Jenna and just ask people to be thinking of their questions. But I guess just last piece, Louise, Laura and Melanie, is there any one piece of advice that you would give to people listening, or on the other side, anything that you would do differently? Because that in itself is a piece of advice, isn't it? I think so. Louise?
Yeah, I think for me it's the storytelling approach. I think I wish I'd understood how important that was at the beginning. We all know our businesses better than anybody else, which I definitely forgot in those many moments when I thought, what am I doing? I don't know if I, can definitely do it. And actually explaining Needi, explaining my business in a way that related to the investors and what they were looking for, and being able to explain it succinctly so they fully understood the business model, what our margins were and everything quickly, which you can tell is not my forte. I'm a babbler. I think that's something I wish I'd done earlier. I wish I'd had that confidence to condense what we've done and our story and understand how to communicate that. I think that's the key to it. And I wish someone had told me that earlier, because that's not half as scary as freaking out about data rooms and all the other stuff that goes with it. You can do all of that. You can all of the next bit, that's all doable, because you can ask for help. You can go to people with expertise. But the only bit that really, I believe, comes down to you as a founder of your business is if you can communicate solidly why your business is going to grow and make it, and you can do that in a way that relates to the person that you're speaking to, that's half the battle won. And yeah, I wish someone had just told me it wasn't that bad.
Thank you for that, Louise. Laura, from your perspective, any top tips or things that you would do differently?
For me, it comes back to that timepiece. Start as early as possible, having those conversations. You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. And don't be afraid to have those early conversations. Get yourself out there. There's lots of, we've such a good ecosystem within Northern Ireland in terms of fundraising. So like events like Investor Bound that Catalyst run, etc. It's like speed dating for startups and people who are looking funding, and lots of different types of funders they're available to talk to. But as well as that, echoing what Louise said, being able to succinctly say in 2-3 minutes exactly what your business does. You are in it every day, and you don't necessarily appreciate that they will have never heard of you before, and you need to have them walking away from you going, I want to find out more.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
So yeah, that's what that would be my piece of advice.
Thanks for that. And Melanie, from your side?
I think really it's probably boring that advice, but it really is just down to the figures. And people, they want to know, you have to take a really deep dive into these figures, and it's for yourself as well. You don't want to take a loan that you don't think you're going to pay back. So you have to be confident you're going to pay it back, and the people have. So, and that's the only way you can really, prove, is to really knock it down. And it's maybe not, the most exciting thing that you could be doing, but that is what it all boils down to at the end of the day. And, that's where you need to focus a lot of effort on.
Yeah, not boring at all, Melanie. I think you're absolutely right. Well, thank you to our 3 panelists. If we were in a big room, I'd be doing a round of applause here. But now I'm delighted to introduce our fund managers, who we've been talking about you the whole time. So I'm sure you're desperate to introduce yourself. So we've got Sean McLaughlin here from Clarendon and Jenna Mayers from Whiterock. And I wonder if we could just start, Sean and Jenna, by introducing yourselves and perhaps just reflecting a little bit on what you've heard. But I've got quite a few questions in as well, and I'd love to give time to that. So, Sean, if you could start by introducing yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for having me today. It's been really, really lovely to listen to everybody's stories. So I'm one of the senior investment managers at Clarendon Fund Managers. I've been there for about 3 years. I have a very boring traditional background of being an accountant. So come at it with the financials always foremost when I'm looking at investments. No, I think it's been really great. I've been writing stuff down the whole way through, and there's been some really moments where I wanted to jump in but didn't. So I think on reflection, it's lovely to hear everybody's journeys and that storytelling piece. Equity and debt are different, and they're for different. It's a different sort of process to go through, and different businesses will require different either equity or debt at different times. And I suppose whenever Louise was talking at the end there about storytelling, that's so valuable on the equity journey, and reflecting on starting those conversations early. With equity, we are there. We're a minority shareholder, so we're not there to we're a board observer, not director. We sit on the journey with you, and we want to be involved in that story. So the sooner you can get us on board, the quicker. And I suppose that also comes into play in the application process as well. You know, whenever you're having those conversations, we want to have those conversations where you're talking about your dreams and what you see for the business. And in 6 months' time, when we meet you and you say, oh, actually, do you remember I was talking about that contract that I was hoping I was going to get, or that customer, or, you know, the person that I'd identified that I thought would be great, they're going to join our team.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're on that journey with you. No, it's been really, really lovely. Thank you I can't wait to get stuck into the questions.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, just a reinforcement, I think, there of the message of get started early. That's what I'm hearing from you. Thank you, Sian. Jenna, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much for having me as well, guys. I think Sian has stolen a bit of my thunder there, and you know what she said. It's hard to follow that, Sian. I am currently finance director in Whiterock, and I have been with the company for 12 years. So I've worked in a number of different roles within Whiterock, including the investment side of things. So I think, you know, one thing that I would say is debt is not necessarily applicable for startups, because, you know, there has to be an ability to repay it. But I would say get the conversations in early. There's a lot of companies that we've had conversations with in the past that have been slightly too early stage for debt. But, you know, as the company grows, then the debt can work in then. I suppose, you know, debt and equity do go hand in hand. In some stages, you know, the equity will come first, help the company to grow, and then it can take on debt to help further growth. Or in other instances, you know, a company may already be established and want to grow further before it takes on equity investment. So, you know, debt can come in earlier then. I suppose, you know, just echoing what the guys have said, it can be a process, so it is good to make those connections early, to know what's available in the market, to form relationships. You know, I think, you know, especially in Northern Ireland, a lot is relationship driven, and if you already know people and you know what your options are, it makes it easier going forward. And then you already have an idea of, you know, what's available, and you have a relationship there too. Brilliant. So I think that's all from me for now.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll get into the questions. I've got a few that are equity specific, so I'll give these to Sian, and then we've got directly for you. So what do you have to be able to show in terms of figures, Sian, in order to get equity funding? I'm not clear from that question if it means, do we have to show what type of figures or an actual amount, but perhaps you can speak to both.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. So in terms of, quite often we get emails in about the application process, and like the application process is fine. It's a, you know, come to our office, or we'll come to you more likely, because we want to see where you're based, and we'll have a cup of tea and we'll chat about what the business looks like and your aspirations, etc. I suppose in terms of financials, it's just your typical, you know, we'll want to see your latest management accounts. We'll want to see projections, and that can be in whatever state they're in. You know, whether it's just a very initial cash flow projection, or, you know, we will work with you on that as we go through the process. So management accounts, projections, if you have a business plan or a deck that you can talk us through to try, it's basically just to get us on the journey to understand this. It's very informal, it's very relaxed. We will keep you updated along that process. What I would say is, don't be afraid to, you know, we're not expecting a fully baked business.
Yeah.
So I would say if there are gaps, you know, like Louise has mentioned, growing the team from 6 to 13, whenever we invested, it was at 6, and, you know, be open about, okay, we've got 6, but this money is going to allow us to recruit X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So we're not expecting it to be all singing, all dancing. We know you're on a growth journey, we're with you. So hopefully that explains a wee bit more around the information, but happy to pick up any other queries.
Yeah. And I will say, we in the follow-up email to this, we will give contact details, so you can contact Clarendon and Whiterock directly. So another question for you, Sian. What percentage equity stakes does the equity fund tend to take in a business? Will it be a minority shareholder? You did mention being a minority shareholder before.
Yeah, so this is a good point. So sometimes I think there's a perception on equity that, you know, we're going to be Alan Sugar and come in and fire everybody. We are not. That's not what we're about. So we are a minority shareholder. So we don't take a controlling stake in the business. We don't get involved. We have invested in you because we think you are best placed to run your business. So we're not getting involved in the day-to-day operations or the running of it. But we are on the board as observer to add the value that we think we can from our experience. In terms of the percentage stake, yes, so it's a minority shareholding. That is really down to the maths of what the company's valued at. So it's going to be different for every business. Mm-hmm. But I suppose the key point is that it's minority. It's not controlling.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's super. Thank you. Then I've got a question for both you and Jenna, and then a question for Jenna. So, and Sian, you can start with this one, and then I'll bring Jenna in. Is funding available for startups, or do you have to have traded before applying for investment?
No. So IFNI Fund has very generously allowed us to invest in all stages. So from that, which we would typically describe as pre-revenue, right through to early stage. So maybe you've got some sales, but you're not profitable, through to growth and expansion, where you're maybe bringing a new product or going into a new market. So no, we can invest at any stage.
That's brilliant, thank you. I'll bring Jenna in now. So Jenna, just answering that question, does that apply to Whiterock too? Can you invest in any stage, or is it different when it comes to debt finance?
So I suppose with the debt financing, it is slightly different in that whenever you take out a loan, it has to be repaid. So we do need to see traction there. We do need to see sales. Now, I suppose the stage at which we can provide a loan will vary from company to company, depending on how quickly it's growing, what the plans are, how the products are being received in the market. So I would say, lift the phone, have a conversation. We will be quick in coming back to say whether we think it works now, or whether we need to wait 6 or 12 months to see a bit more traction before we can consider it. But generally, yes, we do need to see some level of trading.
Okay, thank you. And another question for you, Jenna. How long can a loan process take from application to decision? What's average? But then and then if you're successful in getting a loan, what's the repayment period?
Yeah, so I suppose similar to what Sian said, there are certain information requirements that we have for our loans. So we will be looking for management accounts, projections, a business plan. So the length of the process very much depends on the quality of the information at the start. So our microfinance, which we would classify as loans between 25k and 125k, tends to be a quicker application. It's a smaller loan amount. So, we would hope to have a decision there between application, receipt of information, and the loan being approved, maybe a week or 2 weeks. In our normal process, so from the 125k up, it will be a slightly longer process there. So, we would aim 4 to 6 weeks, but it will depend on the quality of the information and the speed that the company comes back to answer questions. But I think, Melanie said that we are as helpful as we can be, and we don't try to put, too much pressure on a business. We will take any business plan that the business already has, or, if there's no business plan in place, I can give a company a list of information that I would like if they provide me with a couple of paragraphs. Quite often sitting down and having a conversation, gives so much more information than a War and Peace 200-page business plan that, you're taking a couple of words off each page. So, I think it depends really on the quality of the information and the amount that the company wants to borrow. So it can be anywhere between a week to, with our aim, 4 to 6 weeks.
Great, that's really good to hear. And then thinking about that, actually, the repayment term, is it a fixed repayment term for the investment fund? Is it kind of mandated by British Business Bank, or is it something that you negotiate with the business?
So generally, our general repayment term would be 5 years. That would be the typical term. Now, we can provide periods of between 2 and 7 years if that is what meets the company's requirements. We also have the ability to offer interest-only periods. So, we will make sure that it aligns with the business's cash flows and what the requirements are there. So I suppose, if it's a shorter-term project, a shorter-term loan would work out better, or, if it's for longer term finance, we have the ability to provide longer loans.
Brilliant, thank you.
But it tends to be whatever aligns best with the cash flows and the plans.
It sounds very business centered, Jenna. It's really about what's right for that business.
Yeah. And I suppose, we also have the ability to follow on. So, it's not a one-stop shop. So if a company comes to us now, say for a loan of 200,000 and they continue to grow and they need more funding in the future, we already have that relationship there, and we are keen to support our portfolio companies, so we have the ability to provide follow-on funding, as the company grows and needs further capital.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got a question for both of you. I'll give you a rest for a minute, Jenna. I'll go to Sian to start this one off. So, do you notice a difference at all in the way that female founders versus male founders approach inquiries and pitch, and if so, do you have any specific tips for women founders? So Sian, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we actively look at. We're involved with Women in Business. We are involved in the Investing in Women Code. We very actively try to hunt out those great businesses that are female founded or a mixed founder team. And funny, I saw the question and I was just trying to refresh myself on the stats there. So interestingly, we also have a private investor network that we manage. And so that's sort of like Dragon's Den style pitching events. And of those, all the females that have pitched have received investment. So we typically see a better success rate for the females. But in terms of our portfolio, we have, I think it's 25% now are female founded businesses in our portfolio. So really strong stats when you compare them to the UK. And of those, none of them have actually gone into liquidation, which is great news. So I think in terms of what I see in our portfolio is sometimes female founders possibly don't pay themselves enough. And that's one question that we would ask and that we would try to work in to the investment to say, we need to see you motivated not that we need to see you motivated, we want to see you rewarded, because, oh my goodness, all founders are incredibly motivated. We want to see you rewarded, and we want to make sure that you're invested in the business and that you're all the hard work that you're putting into it is getting repaid. So I suppose that's the only thing I see, and it's the only tip that I would give. Just make sure that you are valuing yourself as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Jenna, would you add to that in terms of differences that you perhaps see between male and female founders?
Yeah, no, I think I would echo what Sian said. Like, quite often whenever it is female founders, the information can be more organized, there can be more of a structure to it. Conversations do tend to happen earlier, I would suppose. I would say quite often, and we see that female founders are probably less open to taking on external finance.
Yeah.
And they tend to think that you can bootstrap it yourself, you can work on your retained earnings to help grow. And I think sometimes men are just more open they can see where the growth can occur, and they're looking to do it as quickly as possible. So, we would be at a lot of the Women in Business events. We would be on a lot of the women panels. We're also signatories to Investing in Women Code, and we are trying to encourage that. And I suppose, it's about us getting out and just, getting the word out there that financing is available and it will help a business to grow more quickly.
Brilliant. And I guess that's the purpose of having this very targeted webinar today. Exactly that. Thank you. So I'll keep you, Jenna, with the next question. Is there a particular sector that you're interested in, but not getting enough applications for, or are you sector agnostic?
We are completely sector agnostic. So I suppose there's certain sectors that we can't fund, but we don't tend to get any applications.
Okay, tell us what they are, just in case. What are the sectors that you couldn't fund?
Just was things like shipbuilding, coal, oil and gas. Generally not many Northern Ireland businesses that we see. So no, we are completely sector agnostic, and we are happy to have a conversation with any business, and you know, any stage and anywhere in Northern Ireland. We are quite often out and about, you know, right across the region, trying to meet new people and see the businesses that are out there. I think, you know, Northern Ireland has a lot of really good businesses that keep their light under a bushel, and we don't actually know that they exist. So, you know, I think for us, and it would be the same for Jan, it's about getting the information out there and letting people know that funding is available.
Brilliant, thank you. So, Sian, I'll come to you on the sectors, and then I've got the last question for you, so we can wrap up in a couple of minutes at 11. So, are you sector agnostic too, Sian?
Yeah, so we're sector agnostic, and I suppose not sector related, but where we are really focusing our efforts at the minute is in the regions. So we have strong KPIs to invest outside of Belfast. We can still invest in Belfast, and we love investing in Belfast, but we also want to make sure that that in terms of the wider regions are also getting access to finance. So that's where we sort of see the gaps at the minute. We're trying to get out. Well, sorry, we're out consistently in the north and the west, and trying to find those little gems that that Jenna was talking about, because there are really good businesses, but we just don't know what equity or venture debt is. So we're trying to spread the message and hopefully get some investment out there.
Brilliant, thank you. And just one last question for you, Sian, then. If you're getting equity funding pre-revenue, what are investors looking for? So are they looking for something different because, you know, these businesses haven't got sales yet? And how do you determine the percentage stake if the company doesn't have a value yet?
Yeah, so this one blew my mind when I started my job, because as I said, I was an accountant, and I was like, how do you value a business that has no revenue? There's no revenue.
Yeah.
So basically we will look, you know, we're investing in the team. So if it's pre-revenue, and you have maybe like a product that's in development, what are those conversations that you're having? Who are the team? How are they going to drive those sales? So we're putting a value on the projections, a realistic value on the projected revenue that we think is achievable. And we're sort of giving that a bit of a haircut based on the level that the business is, you know, that it is. So I suppose it's then drilling down to the team and how realistic are those projections, getting behind the revenue to see, you know, have they been in the industry? Do they have good contacts? Have they started conversations yet? How far are those conversations on? If you've got a letter of intent or an MOU that can kind of back that revenue up, you know, all of that kind of builds the story around the projected revenue, and then the valuation is sort of a multiple of that based on the industry. So, you know, we'll do our sort of own research in the background to see what deals have been in that market and what we think the revenue multiple should be. So
there is some kind of method there, even if they haven't got those sales yet.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Good. Well, thank you so much, Sian, and thank you to Jenna and all our panelists. We're at 10:59, so we've made amazing time. I think we could probably talk for another couple of hours because there's so much to talk about, but I think it just shows the interest that's out there. I know that Clarendon and Whiterock are happy to chat further, and so in our follow-up email, we'll be sending links of how you can do that. There'll also be links from the British Business Bank so you can learn more about the fund. And of course, if you've got any questions that didn't get answered today, you can send them to us at Women in Business, and we'll send them directly to the panel members or the fund managers as well. So thank you again for joining us this morning, and thanks to all our panel, all our speakers, the British Business Bank, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.